Ranked Brawl Stars definitely needs some changes. The new season is upon us. It's the 2nd of January, and there are no modifiers this season. So, for some of you, you may rejoice. I actually think it does spice up the gameplay a little bit. Some of them are annoying, but not having any of them, or people that understand the meta, makes it a little bit simpler. But for some of us that are still trying to climb, I think that there are changes that definitely could happen that could make it easier. So, those 5 changes I'm going to list as follows. And I think the first change that we need is more bans or a random wheel that bans brawlers up until platinum. So for any of you that don't know, when you're in bronze, silver, and gold, it is just a free-for-all pick. Starting the season today, it's definitely been a massive struggle. I think that you have a mix of different players from across all of the different ranks, and they're all playing at the same time. So there is no real MMR, if you like, or skill-based matchmaking that's in the background. And you can definitely feel it 100%. You do get legendary and master players in. I think there is a change that we'll mention later on in this video, like a bonus change that I think needs to happen around that to kind of stop that, because that is extremely irritating. And it does feel like, especially if you sort of hover around the platinum and mythic mark, that when you see a legendary or a master player on the other team and you don't have one on your team, it very much is a certain loss, probably. So reason why I think that we need more bans is that we're currently at 87 brawlers. We're about to go into 88 brawlers, which is an insane amount of brawlers, and there haven't been an increase in bans. So I think that it would be nice to see an increase in the bans that you can get, whether it be that the captain gets to pick an extra ban, so it's 4 bans on each team, or whether there's just like a random wheel that I mentioned earlier that does bans. But I definitely think there needs to be some increase in bans, because although it does give you a bigger pool of brawlers to use, it does mean that there are still some brawlers that are definitely S tier and you can't ban them all. And especially when you're playing in solo ranked or you're not with a team, it can be a little bit random what gets banned and whether they're actual, genuine bans, or whether people haven't really given it much thought. So, for example, if you're playing like an open knockout map and somebody just bans Edgar, say, hey, Edgar, the reality is Edgar's not going to be good in that scenario, so it's a rubbish ban. So definitely is going to be a different there for teams versus solo players, but I definitely think that would be a great change. The next change, number 2, is that I think that we need to give people fully powered up brawlers to platinum, but they still have to have that brawler unlocked. When you go from bronze to platinum specifically, sometimes it still happens in mythic. I've not been in legendary or master, so I don't know. I know that up until at least platinum for definite, you still see people pick brawlers that are level 9, and it almost makes your heart sink when your brawler has a hypercharge as well, especially if it's a good hypercharge for that brawler. And that is a significant disadvantage for you, even if that brawler is the perfect brawler for that match. And I'm not saying that it doesn't not happen where you can still win and it can still work out for you. It can, but the majority of the time it is a massive disadvantage, and it really does make your heart sink when you see it. I don't see any reason why you can't still have people have the brawler unlocked, but they have access to all of the gadgets, star powers, and hypercharge if available up until they reach platinum, and then it goes back to what it is that you've unlocked. So I think it would give people a nice incentive to play, especially when there's a lot of newer players that get access to rank quite quickly and quite easily, but can't actually get into platinum. For most of us, getting to platinum, I think it's going to be relatively easy, especially if you've got 10 to 15 of a mix of different brawlers that are fully maxed out. You're going to get there. So I would like to see that personally. My next change, number 3, is some sort of search function for brawlers in the selection when you're in the ranked mode, or favorites per mode. So you could select all your different favorites, like your preset of favorite brawlers for each mode, or just some sort of better categorization, right? So I know there are a few categories that you can use on there, but now that I'm at about 50 plus brawlers that are fully maxed out, trying to scroll through the wheel is quite challenging sometimes, because you have a brawler in mind, maybe they get banned, now you have to think of another brawler, or maybe you need to now think of a different brawler because the one that you had in mind is now countered by all of their picks, especially when your last pick. And sometimes it can be a bit of a struggle having to navigate through, especially as the time can creep up on you really quickly, and sometimes you end up panic picking and not picking the right brawler, and sometimes you do figure out the brawler or you find it and then you know what one you got, but you need to change the gadgets and star powers and you don't necessarily do it in time. I think for people that play ranked quite a lot might be able to just think of this on the fly, but for the majority of us, when you're still trying to figure things out, it's not as easy. So I think just to be able to, like, you know, put the search, you know, a quick search that kind of you can put in the first, you know, letter or whatever of the brawler that you want, and they come up with all of those, or just some other ways to categorize it. I think that'd make this a lot easier, and I definitely see this happening to me and some of my friends a lot. And I definitely see people where you can tell they've just panic picked someone at the last minute, and you probably end up losing the match. Can be quite frustrating. Change number 4: level 9 star power and gadget minimum for platinum and beyond. So this kind of falls into my second point where we were talking about just fully powering up. But I think once you get into like platinum and onwards, you do still sometimes see people that do pick higher level brawlers. So they might not be level 9, they might be level 11, but then they don't have the hypercharge, or they don't have a gadget, or they don't have the star power, or they don't have gears. Again, it's really, really frustrating. It puts you at a disadvantage. Again, I'm not saying that it doesn't work sometimes when they pick the perfect brawler, but ultimately you are at a disadvantage. And so I think to not have at least a gadget and a star power from platinum onwards, I don't think it's unreasonable to have that. Yes, it does create a lot more things that people have to be aware of, and they don't want to overcomplicate it. But I think if you're getting to like platinum and onwards, you've got some sort of idea of the game, and I don't think that's an unrealistic expectation. Would like to at least see that, especially because it does happen more than you realise, and when it does, 9 times out of 10, you usually lose the match, and it's really frustrating. This is a bit of a personal change for number 5 that I think that could happen, and that's just disable emotes for rank. Now I know they're not like the most toxic thing in the world, and for most people they don't really bother, but I think it'd be nice in the settings to disable them specifically for ranked if you don't want to see them, just because when you're in the moment and you're just constantly going through matches, you know, League of Legends was extremely renowned for being really toxic and frustrating, and you could literally just mute everybody in it. And I do think that sometimes when you're seeing the sprays and the emotes and stuff coming, it can sometimes distract you a little bit. It is just a personal preference. I am in my 30s, so it might be an age thing. You know, Sully, get good, mate. But at the end of the day, I just think that'd be a nice change. Then I think for the absolute final bonus change that I had in mind was, if you get to legendary or master, or maybe this is just for master, I don't think you should be put in the pool with all of the other leagues. So if you've got to gold last season, you should never see a legendary or a master player from previous seasons. I just don't think you should see it. If you've got currently in normal trophy pushing, where you get to 1,000 trophies and then you go into a new queue, again, it might be a little bit frustrating. By the end of the day, if somebody's legendary or they're master, they're going to go through the ranks anyway. Why not just give them the rewards and just push them straight away into those queues from like legendary onwards, or at least from like mythic onwards or something like that? It is extremely frustrating when you see it. Like I said earlier, it does feel like you're just basically going to lose the match. I, as a mythic player who can't get to legendary at the moment, I don't really want to see master players, right? Like, I think that a lot of the pros and people that play the game a lot don't think the rank's very competitive, but you have to remember that the majority of players that are either casual or are interested like at the level that I am, but don't necessarily get to play loads and loads and loads, and definitely don't have all of the brawlers unlocked, it is not fun seeing people at legendary or masters. And I think we can all agree that most people, unless they're just playing Smurf accounts with a set of brawlers that they know, they probably are fully maxed, if not close to max. So they have a huge array of brawlers to pick from. They have a huge array of knowledge, clearly, because they've managed to get to those leagues. And I don't think we should be seeing them in bronze, silver, gold, or at least platinum at a minimum. So I think that those would be some nice changes just to kind of try and spice up the ranked league. And, you know, for those people that are like really competitive, you want to put them into a separate league after Masters, then, you know, maybe that's an option. I see it from both sides of the fence. So you've got people that are really, really new that really struggle and probably don't get past gold or even platinum. Then you've got people at the high end that are just absolutely know this game inside out, and then they think it's just not very competitive and really easy. You have to remember that the majority of the player base probably is more at the casual end than at the absolute extreme hardcore end. That's usually just the reality of it all the time. So it'd be nice to have a bit of a balance between those, you know, different arenas. And obviously you've got to cater for both, right? You don't want to alienate either, and that's definitely not what I'm saying. But as somebody that goes through the grind either as a solo or as a duo, we don't have all of the brawlers ranked up. There's a lot that we're missing. We're still grinding through, we're still leveling up. And yes, Supercell has to make money, absolutely. but it does feel bad when you get put up against those high level brawlers. That is it. Those are my 5, technically 6 with a bonus, of changes that I think that ranked Brawl Stars needs to have. If you agree, let me know. If you disagree, also let me know. And if there's something that you think that could be a good change that I haven't mentioned, let me know in the comments and we can discuss it. I think that's, you know, a great discussion topic. It is something that I think about quite a lot. Me and my good friend Ben, we play quite a lot of ranked, and we've been playing loads today, and we've literally struggled to get to gold. Now it could be you lot suck, get good, but it also could be other people like, actually, do you know what, I feel the same pain as you, and I think there could be some changes, right? It doesn't necessarily mean they have to be these exactly, but these are some of the things that I think about when I'm playing that I think would be nice to have. That is literally it from me on this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.